Hello and welcome back to the live stream. Today we're going to do something, you might notice I'm dressed a little differently, like I'm going to do housework or chores, and that's because today I need to move my mouthpiece, and it is a chore. And I know if you're watching this video and you clicked on it because you are in the middle of an embouchure change or a mouthpiece position change, you know already how much of a chore it is, right? So my camera is also in a different place because I'm going to be standing here a lot during this video because I have a mirror down here and I can see that but I can't see what you see because that's over there to me. So hopefully that all works out fine. If it doesn't, then this video will be bad and then I will, I guess, delete it. But let's talk about how to do a mouthpiece change, or even actually why you should. So okay, well let's start with, what are we talking about? Well, if my mouthpiece when I play is in the absolute middle, right? So that's close. About 50-50 top and bottom, and about side to side right in the middle, right? Just right in the center of my chops. That's going to give me the most leverage with the most muscles in the most even amount, right? So that's why a lot of people want you to put your mouthpiece right in the middle, because it puts you at the greatest advantage for the use of your muscles, right? Okay, great. It helps that the architecture of your lip. A lot of people have this feature called a Cupid's bow, right? It looks like a bow, but also that Cupid might have, right? With hearts, I guess. And so you think, well, there's just the grip. Anyway, this little bow right here, this little dip, right? And it's very, very helpful to get at least a piece of that dip inside the cup, because you have a lot more endurance and a lot more sort of ability to get away with flexing your lip a little bit in there. And in general, it keeps your lip from falling out of the mouthpiece, right? So that's another feature. So there's a couple of reasons why you might want to center your mouthpiece, but there's a bunch of reasons why you might not do that. For instance, the teeth that are underneath the lips, right? That's really the architecture that you're pressing into. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't use pressure. Yeah, you do. You just don't. You're trying not to use as much. You're trying to use as little pressure as possible, perhaps, but you're still going to press into those teeth, and the shape of those teeth is still going to matter. So let's say that you have a flat spot over here, right? And so maybe you favor that spot because it's real even and it doesn't hurt to play there. Or, well, a lot of people, let's say you have a really great high range, maybe you have like a kind of a wedge shape in one spot, and if you put your mouthpiece right on top of that, then you can sort of press into it as you play higher, and it just kind of keeps working, right? And so sometimes people accidentally they learn to play, without thinking about that, but they're actually accessing some of those things in their dental structure. And so that won't work if you move it, right? Your high range will be gone because you moved it away from that wedge shape, or your stability will be gone because you moved it away from a flat area. And most of us that are playing trumpet professionally have teeth that in some way are okay at least, and we've worked around those with our muscles. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, because I changed some things, and so my embouchure started drifting more than normal, and I didn't keep it in check because I had too much going on. And so now you're going to help me move it back, and hopefully I'm going to help you move yours where you want it. So how do you do this? Well, there's lots of ways, but let's take each step in stride, right? So the first thing that I would ask you to do is try to free buzz, okay? So we're going to put our mouthpiece down. We're going to get real close to the camera here. And so what happens, you can sort of see this in my lip, right? This is the middle of my current embouchure, which is just to the right of my bow. And it's the same on my bottom lip, okay? So I'm sorry if that was gross to anybody. I should have given you a warning. But there's going to be a lot of mouth stuff in this one, right? So just buckle up. All right, so I'm going to try to free buzz, and I want to see if I can get this middle part to be the part that buzzes, right? So and your bottom lip really kind of controls, you can see it sort of sliding around, right? It's really the thing that helps control what part of the top lip vibrates, but also the corners, right? If I make my corners and I bunch this way, right, I can change the left and right also with pulling my corners one way or another. So in my case, I'm trying to pull my right corner and my sort of levators over so that this centers on my teeth a little bit better, and then that also will center on my I'll make sure my bottom jaw doesn't move too much either. And so that way I can, and you'll notice I put my tongue between my lips. That's also helping me feel the center of the buzz. So let's just do that a little bit, right? So it also helps to sort of like, I can sort of touch here where it won't vibrate anymore. I can hold it together a little bit and see if I can channel, your tongue position helps channel the air when you do free buzzing. So one more time. Okay, so we're doing pretty good. You've got a mostly concentric buzz. It still wants to be over here a little bit, but that's, as we go further, we'll be able to isolate with the rim, and I should be able to start to move it over, and then it'll feel more natural to use my muscles that way. So this is essentially a muscle exercise, right? Because the teeth, like I said, are just under there, and so we might be aware of them, but we're really deciding where we want it to be by using our muscles. And if we can't move things around, then, well, we're not going to be able to do much, right? So, except for just sort of passively plop it in a new place. And that usually doesn't work very well. It is sort of what we're doing, but we need our muscles to sort of help us get there, right? So, okay, we've done a little bit of free buzzing. Now what? Well, there's a lot of next steps. You can try to center it with a pencil. There's an old strength building exercise where you just hold a pencil in your chops, right? And you try to hold it flat. And you don't let it touch your teeth. This is really great to help make your muscles concentric around the spot that you want your aperture to be. But don't do too much of it. You can get really worn out doing strength-based exercises, and then you're kind of a product of whatever is left over if you try to play after that, right? So it's okay to build strength, but in trumpet playing, we mostly want to be building efficiency, not strength, right? Because if you think about, like, we use the analogy about, like, okay, well, if I have $100 and it costs me $1 per note, I can play 100 notes. But if I have $100 and it costs me a penny per note, then I can play 1,000 notes, right? And that's a lot more notes, and it's the same amount of money. And a lot of times people will say, like, yeah, well, okay, I'm going to work on that, but I also want to get more money, right? So I can spend more. Well, yeah, but do you really think you're going to be able to fit $1,000 into your wallet? Probably not, you know. And if the equivalent of that in this analogy is the muscle strength, I don't think I'm going to get 10 times stronger. So that means I'm still going to have to work on efficiency. So don't get too obsessed with the strength-based aspect of it, but when you're trying to move the aperture around a little bit, it is not a bad idea to take the pencil and not do too much of it, but just kind of wrap it around where you want. So I can see the bow of my lip is right above there. I'm going to try to keep it there with my muscles. And then I'm going to try to move that spot so that it's right here, right in between my top teeth. Now that's not the embouchure I'm going to use, but it is all the muscle groups that I'm going to use. So it's not a bad idea to just memorize, like, what's active, how am I feeling those muscles, and then when I actually try to play, well, I'll have a better better shot of getting it, especially if I'm not looking in a mirror, right? Okay. We have a question already. How do you feel about aligning the top and bottom teeth for placement? I'm not sure exactly what you mean, Robbie. Aligning the top and bottom teeth for placement. I think you mean like your bottom jaw, right? Like in other words, if I have an overbite, which I do, right? Let's see if I can. Yeah, a slight overbite, right? My top teeth are further forward than my bottom teeth. How do I feel maybe about jutting the jaw forward to make sure that that's like a flat surface, right? And what I'll say is it's not a bad idea in terms of the mechanics of it, but it is a bad idea for your jaw. So your jaw doesn't like being pushed forward and then being cranked on by the pressure of the trumpet. And if it's only a little bit, then you don't need to do it at all, because just a downward horn angle is going to get you pretty close to pretty even pressure anyway. And it has some advantages too. Your flexibility and your range tend to be at a slight advantage if it's not a perfectly flat surface. It gives them more room to keep vibrating even though you're adding pressure. That being said, a completely flat surface, you can just keep pressing into it and nothing new happens, so you don't gain anything by adding pressure really, and you don't really need as much pressure because it's easier to keep a seal. So in that sense, it is, well, when you're somebody who maybe alters their own teeth as part of their whole deal, it is something that I think about, right? So that might be, in certain situations, you might need that evenness to get through something. And it's okay to move your jaw as you play. You should probably do it, at least some, if not to actually activate certain things. Like some people play with a completely free jaw, and they use that to compress and decompress the air, in other words, for range, for flexibility. Other people just need to sort of hold their jaw in different positions, and they play with a fixed jaw, but as they change maybe their horn angle or something, play in different ranges, they need to exercise more muscle sort of power to keep that jaw in place. And so you should move your jaw a little bit, at least in terms of work, as you play. And then another thing that I know that I just learned from a tuba player actually is that as you go down, that surface needs to be more and more even. Because if you think about, you're playing like here, right? And if I bring my jaw down to play lower, it came apart. It came away from the plane that my mouthpiece is on, right? So what I need to do instead is keep it on the same plane. And okay, of course, a tuba mouthpiece is gigantic, right? So in order to keep the response, keep from bobbling out, I'm going to need to push my jaw forward as I go down just to keep the teeth on the same plane, because the plane is huge, right? But when I'm playing just this tiny little trumpet rim, an octave really doesn't, there's nowhere to go, right? So I don't think about it too much, but it is a new sort of tidbit of information that, like, if I start losing response as I'm going down, I might start thinking about making sure that bottom jaw pressure is the same. A lot of people just bring their horn angle down, or they do that same thing when they go up. They bring their horn angle down to keep it pressed into the bottom lip. So all of these things are factors. But anyway, we're getting a little off topic. I like answering questions, though. We have another one. Dave says, what about the Pete? Or did you cover that already? I didn't cover it. It's coming up. So, okay, what have we done, actually? We centered our embouchure with some free buzzing, right? Or as best we can, right? It's still not right in the middle. And we got a sense of the muscles we need to be using and how much, right? I need to work much harder over here than I currently am working, and in a different way than I've been working. I've been sort of buttoning this down, and I need to bring it out a little bit and button this down a little bit more, right? So just different amounts of work. And this pencil helped me find that. Okay, so now what am I going to do? Well, again, there are all kinds of gimmicks and gadgets. I really like, well, I already did the next one that I normally would do, which is the cutout. But we'll get to the cutout. Dave asked about the Pete. And this isn't a Pete, this is a hootin' out, or rather embouchure, but I call it the Hooten now because Tom Hooten made it. And this device is really, really great. It helps you do all kinds of things, but this side of it is a lot like the Warburton Pete, which I don't remember what it, personal embouchure training E, whatever that last E is, I don't remember. But what you do with it is you put it in your mouth, but not through your teeth, right? So in between the lip and the tooth, you wrap your lips around it, and then you pull on it very slightly and try to resist that pull. So if my embouchure is here, right, I'm going to notice it right away, and I can correct for that. And this one you can blow through, which connects the way that you use your embouchure muscles to the airflow, which is one of the big deals. Now, the other side of it also has this handy-dandy sort of like training tool, so that this goes in your lips, and you hold on to that with, so that's the aperture, right? And then you can blow through it, and then you release it, and your lips come together where they were wrapped around that tube, and hopefully start vibrating. So this is actually a great tool to recenter or move things around, because it's forcing you to say, okay, well, this is the spot you said you want to vibrate, so now let's make it do it, and you can practice with this, right? You want to be very gentle, though. This whole process, so far we haven't done anything really intense, and we're never going to do anything intense, because what we're doing is a very delicate, very unfamiliar process. And so it's very easy to hurt yourself if you're like, well, I don't care, I'm going to stick it right here, and that's where it's going to go, and here we go. It's not a good approach, because usually it ends up in muscle pain, sometimes even muscle injury, and it also never works. If you read the Arbenz book, he says never do an embouchure change, because it never works. You just spend 2 years trying the new embouchure and trying to make it work and trying to get everything worked out, and then they graduate, and barely, because they've been struggling this whole time, and they go right back to their old embouchure. So whether that's necessarily true entirely or not, I've had plenty of successful embouchure changes, both myself and for my students over the years, but maybe they do go back afterwards. I don't know. Anyway. Okay, well, we got another one. Wow, everybody's here today. Oh, he just wants to offer me a promotion on my channel. Well, Widening Truths, blocked. Sorry. Not sorry. Okay, so how do we use this device? Well, Tom's videos are better than mine ever will be, so go watch his stuff. But one side is this. And the other side, and this is the one that's really good. So I can really, you can see me like, hopefully you can actually see me, targeting that spot, right, with the tube, and then isolating the right spot with the rim, so I'm just like, you can see like I'm isolating a better spot than I highlighted originally. So this is the tool I'm going to use the most, probably today. And I'm not going to make this a super long video. I say that every time, I know, but I need to do this over several hours today, little by little, as I do other tasks around the house, so that I can feel really like that spot can work. And that's our goal. So getting back to how to do this, you do it in tiny little bursts, just like this, and you with tons of rest in between, and then you rebuild it again. You go back, you find that spot again, and it might not work the same every time like that. Okay, and then I just build it again, and then leave it alone, and then come back, and then, I just need to do that like, I don't know, 20 times today. And I'll spend maybe a minute or two on it at each time, and then I need to go ahead and use whatever I got in practice, which I've already done today. But anyway, so okay, so this tool is probably what I'm going to use the most, but I can also use just a regular cutout. This is just a rim. This happens to be a screw rim cutout that I got from, I think Jeff Park a long time ago. But it's just a rim, right? And it's not really a visual. Some people call these visualizers, but I can't visualize anything on this. It's just so that the rim is isolated. I've got another comment different from what you were talking about, but when I was teaching band, I found playing trombone helped to center my embouchure. Just a thought on the subject. I agree with you, and as you can see behind me, oh, you can't anymore because it's too low. Yes, trombone is good. It's also extremely dangerous. So if you're a band teacher, and you already play trombone sometimes, and you probably have an ability to sort of shift in and out of different brass instruments. But most people who play trumpet are really married to this rim on the trumpet rim. In fact, just their specific rim. If they even shift a little bit, if they play another mouthpiece, like it's over for them. So this is the cutout. It's the same thing as the hooten out, but this is really what I use most of the time. And all I'm going to do is set it up where I want it, right? And then I'm going to breathe through my nose. Now, I don't normally do that, but this time I don't want to reset my chops, and it's so easy to do that, and I'll show you what I mean. If I breathe through my mouth, right, here's where I want it to be. And then I go, I'm all the way over here again, right? And I didn't even mean to do it. Well, I mean, I meant to do it to show you, but it's really very natural to put it in that same old space, spot that it always goes in, right? So I'll breathe through my nose the first time, so that I can go just a poo attack here, right? Set it up. Try to get my hands out of the way so I can see. And as soon as you start doing something with a rim, you need to use as little pressure as is still reasonable to get some kind of result. So that's usually pretty light pressure. And whenever we have any kind of rim, any kind of real mouthpiece situation, we want to use very, very light pressure. So because most of the reason that something is off center is because I'm guiding it to there, right? Like I said, there's a lot of reasons that I might choose a spot naturally, but the reason that it's staying there is because my body is really good at guiding the air to that spot. So what I'm learning right now is how to guide the air to a different spot and how to hold there and get used to that. So I don't need to do that in an intense way. I need to do it in a very light but very correct way. So I'm just going to do this for a million years. Just put it in the right spot. I got to check. And you check the mirror maybe every time for a while, and then you can check it every other time, and then maybe every 10th time, right? Because you want to get a familiarity with this that is a sense memory also, right? So here I go. And a lot of times you'll only be able to buzz in one register. The low range really works well for me on the current move that I'm making, and so I want to just do that for a while. And I'll get more and more familiar with it, and then I'll be able to leverage whatever I've got into the other ranges. If maybe it starts off high, I can't play low yet, that's fine, just keep playing high, and eventually you'll be able to figure it out. Okay, so that's another way to do it. Darn it, I had another idea, and then Dave asked me about that trombone thing, and it just completely went out of my brain. Wouldn't you know it? But all right, well, we'll keep moving anyway. So eventually, I'm going to need to play the actual trumpet, and I could do some mouthpiece work in between, right? I can just use my mouthpiece and do the same thing, and that might be a good idea. Again, set it up. And don't insist on a good result at first. A good result is that you moved it, right? And then you're going to learn to make it good, right? So you have to be satisfied with some sort of junky sounds for a little while at least. And that's why we're doing it. That's why we're doing it often and lightly and for a short amount of time. Because I don't want to build any bad habits here. I'm just trying to build one new, better habit. That's it. And then when I start actually putting some air into the horn, actually doing some work, then I need to sound good. I need to use my good habits that I've built for a long time. And if my embouchure drifts back, hey, that's okay for today. I'm going to set it up tomorrow, and it might take me an hour to set it up every day, and it doesn't even stay. But that hour is always well spent because it's slowly feeling more and more comfortable, and one day it'll stick. So, okay, but I do have a trick, so we'll get there. I remembered what I thought. Okay, so I'm going to use this mouthpiece. I'm just going to do the same thing. So as long as I'm still getting the piece of lip that I want, it doesn't really, that wasn't the nicest sounding mouthpiece buzzing, but I'm just trying to get familiar, and I want something to work. And that was nice. I actually got like, more than an octave there, and hey, that's starting to get somewhere. So, okay, now I can also play all these things on the trumpet. But in this case, I want to do things like John Daniel's special studies. And they're at number 3 in that book, I believe, is just these arpeggios that are your 1 and 5 and 1 and 5. So you're sort of just, doing something logical, up and down, up and down. And he extends it by 1 each time, by 1 note. And then you do every key and you sort of walk your way outward. Well, in this case, I just need to do something. It doesn't have to be that exact exercise, but I want to play something with like a subtone, right? So that I'm playing with pretty low pressure. I'm not putting any pressure on myself to have a good sound, but I do need it to work. I need it to be flexible, so I need the notes to actually speak, right? And then if I put a little more air into it and maybe beef up my embouchure, once I know even how to do that, then I should be able to get a better result. And again, if it drifts away as I play normally, well, okay, but I put in the work. So let me do a little bit of that with this mic off now. And again, don't take this as real trumpet playing. This is all just for this one thing. So I don't want it to influence my trumpet playing too much. In John Daniel's special studies, I do want it to influence like my tongue position and my air use. There's a lot of good stuff happening, but I don't want to accidentally think that that's the sound I want to make, right? He says explicitly, like this is this kind of whisper tone, subtone kind of thing. So don't get confused like that's the sound you want, right? But it is kind of the way you want things to work in the new spot, and that's the important part. Is I got to get it there. In fact, I'm going to have to move my. Maybe I can get it and then, yeah, okay. Well, we'll try that. But okay, here we go. I'll do just a little bit of it. So you do these for a while, and you go up, and then you go down, then you go up, and then you go down. I don't think that part matters so much for what we're doing, but I do want to go up higher, right? So I'm going to do the next one now, and go up to C. So I'm just going. I'll have an octave of range then, right? And you do that little swell at the end to just check on your real tone, right? That's not my subtone. I put a little more air into it. I made a little more room for it. And I got a nicer sound. Not maybe as nice as I'd like, but I'm working on it, right? I'm trying to do some new stuff. And so it's okay to make some bad sounds as long as I'm checking to make sure that like there's room for improvement. It's not going to stay this way, right? So, okay, I'll do a little bit more. I didn't set my embouchure in the right spot that time, I could tell. So I'm going to... Okay. So you can hear it's like starting to get somewhere. And I could feel like, I was like, oh man, yeah, this has to work harder because when I start to go higher, my lip needs to roll in or the aperture has to do something. I have to keep things working. And my muscles need to be more active all the time. And I felt all those muscles that we felt with the pencil start to activate as I did this, right? So, okay, that I would do that all the way up until I get to at least like high A or so, which is just the next one if I stay in D major. Da, 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 right? Da, 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 da. I don't think I sang that in the right key, but you go all the way up to the fifth, and that's where that set of exercises stops. You do every key, I guess, up to F, so you'd go up to high C. And I try to do all of those, and that's what I'll do later today, but I'm not going to waste your time making you listen to me do it. So, okay, I have one other trick, and that is once you're playing, so now I'm playing, let's say I'm done, right? I'm not, but let's say I'm done. Well, I can't be doing this all day. Okay, I'm ready to play for my ensembles, right? I can't be doing that. I might have a little pocket mirror that I can check in on, but it really doesn't work very well. It's tedious, and so like I said, once you start playing, you're playing. You got to run the program. But there is one thing you can do. So I happen to have a bigger mouthpiece here by a lot. This is I call this my 0.5 C because it's a 1.5 C that somebody has gouged out to be bigger. You can't really see it on camera there very well, but it's gouged out a little bit to make it bigger inner diameter, and then they've reshaped the rim. So it's a terrible mouthpiece, but I use it to warm up, and you can see, hopefully, maybe you can tell, it's much, much bigger than my straight 8 here, right? This is my straight 8, and this other one is just giant compared to it. I could use something really giant like a bass trumpet mouthpiece, but then I can't really play, and I need to be able to play. So what I'm going to do is, let's say I'm moving, so for me, I'm moving my embouchure from here to here, right? Okay, now, if I'm trying to move it this direction, well then, what happens so if you draw a circle, I wish I had a bunch of circles, but if you draw a circle where this rim is, and you keep the right side, and then you make the circle bigger, it takes up more lip, right? And you got to be careful with this method because you got to really think hard about not just sneaking all that same lip out of the mouthpiece. That makes your problem worse, right? You play a bigger rim, but you're expecting the same spots to hit. No, no, no. Just this one side for me, right? So you can even think of it as like this corner and this corner are going to be basically the same, but then the circle's going to go out further with the bigger mouthpiece, right? And then I switch back to the smaller mouthpiece when that feels comfortable. So I might play that for a week and then go back to the small mouthpiece, but now I keep this side the same, and then the circle's smaller so it doesn't go all the way to where the old anchor points were, right? So you can sort of walk it over with a big mouthpiece and a small mouthpiece until you get where you want. So let me try to demonstrate that. I haven't done it with these mouthpieces yet, but if I'm changing, right? So let's first, I can do it with the mouthpiece. So here's where it feels natural, right? And you can see that's a little bit off center, right? So I'm going to keep this spot right here. Now this feels different, but this feels the same. Yeah, I could almost do that. I mean, this is a way too big mouthpiece for me, but I could almost play this. Like, that feels fine to me right now. And so I could get used to this for a week, maybe 2 weeks, however long it takes for me to get all my skills back. And then remember, I'm also playing the trumpet. I'm not really worried about my embouchure all day. I'm just setting this up in the morning, and then I'm just playing, right? And then when that finishes, when I get really comfortable on this mouthpiece, almost immediately, I'm switching back to this one. But now, I'm going to keep where the left side was. All right? Let's see if I can see in there. Yeah, it's almost too far now. And I can't really do that quite yet because I didn't get used to that middle mouthpiece, right? I didn't let it settle in. But just as an example, you can see how we're doing it. So that's really all I have to do. I have to say to you about this. It's 30 minutes of like different pieces of advice and answering some questions and doing some other stuff. Somebody asks, do I play saxophone? I do not play saxophone. I barely can play the trumpet, so I can't really play anything else. But actually, since you just brought that up, I do have one more gadget to show you that I forgot about, but the saxophone players use. They use a bigger one than this usually, but there's this little tube where you can get PVC, clear plastic, basically tube that you can get at the hardware store in like it's big amount. But you just cut off enough that you won't swallow it or lose it. And you just put that right where you want your embouchure, all right? And in this case, you can even see you can see through the hole where it's centered on your teeth, and you can see how your muscles are working. And the goal is basically to put muscle pressure into the circle, but keep it a circle. So in other words, if you bite down too much, it's going to get like that, right? And like flattened. And if you put too much corners into it, it's going to get oblong like that. Yeah, you can see it. So you put it in there, and you just hold it, and you kind of clamp down. And you can do it for a few minutes, right? And you are building muscle strength with it, and that's primarily the goal, but you're also building stamina for holding that embouchure where you want it. And that's really valuable. So anyway, thanks for the question about saxophone. It reminded me of one more thing. But anyway, let me give you a brief overview if you've been watching this whole video so you don't do anything wrong. So you're trying to move your embouchure. You have a reason to do it, right? Not everybody needs to, but you might have a reason to do it. Or maybe somebody told you you need to, your teacher. You should always trust your teacher. They're trying to help you, right? Not every teacher is right about everything, but how are you supposed to know, right? So you got to try it. You can try to just move it, and that's kind of what we did today, but you want to be very gentle, and you want to take lots and lots of short, small opportunities to find different ways to center that embouchure, that mouthpiece placement rather, where you want it. So what did we do? We did some free buzzing to just try to get a new center with just our muscles. We took the pencil and put it where we wanted the embouchure to go, which is a lot like the thing that I just showed you, right? There's not a lot of difference except that this will tell you if you're pushing more in one direction or another. So it's a little bit better than the pencil. But it gives us awareness of what we should be feeling, okay? Then we used the hoot and out and its various uses. We also use the cutout. Then we're just isolating the part of the flesh that we want to and making it vibrate, which is a lot like free buzzing, but with the rim, right? And then we did a little bit of mouthpiece work, but we basically put it together then and played, but we always played super light pressure, not a lot of air. And you might think, well, Gabriel, I've been told my whole life I got to use a lot of air. Well, yeah, but your embouchure isn't made out of air. It's made out of flesh and muscle. And your mouthpiece, really, right? Your mouthpiece is what tells it what part can vibrate. And so if I use a lot of air, I can make a lot of bad things work with a lot of air. I don't want to make it work. I want to let it find a good way to work, right? So I'm using tiny amounts of air this whole time and tiny amounts of pressure, and I'm just letting it get used to like, this spot feels good to vibrate now. And then I'm putting a little more, I'm getting a little flexibility on the trumpet, right? Doing some arpeggios, maybe some lip slurs, and still very subtone, not putting a lot of air into it. And then once that's starting to work, then I can put a little more air into it. And once I've gotten all that done, if I want to try with a bigger mouthpiece and a smaller mouthpiece to kind of walk my embouchure, walk my mouthpiece position over or up or down, wherever it is I'm going gently, then maybe I can do that. It works really well from left to right and right to left, and it's really hard to make it work up and down, I've found, but your mileage may vary. So this has been a highly controversial episode for our video podcast, whatever this is, our live stream, but these are little things that I think none of them are terrible, right? Anybody could try these out and not end up hurting themselves or doing any real damage. And like I said, you've got to be the one to determine whether you actually need to change the position or not. If what you have right now is working really, really well for you, you can play everything you've ever wanted to play, don't worry about it. But if you think that that maybe is the cause of why you can't improve or why you're having production issues, well, then it might be a good time to change. And I'll never be able to tell you, right? You're on the other end of this video. I can't tell you whether you need that or not. Only really you can tell you. And a qualified professional, if you can get a private lesson with them, they might be able to give you some advice. But even then, you're the only one who knows if you can make that work or not. So be very careful. Do everything delicately. Do it in short bursts over long periods of time. And then at the end of the day, you still just got to put your fundamentals in place wherever the embouchure stuff lies. You just got to play the trumpet well again. And so make sure that you do that and have fun doing it, because it's very tedious work to do this other stuff. And you need to balance it with just playing through some nice etudes or just improvising a beautiful melody, something that gives you some sense of success and some sense of satisfaction musically at the end of the day. Otherwise, it's all just about embouchure, and well, it's an easy way to get pretty upset about your trumpet playing. So I hope this has helped. I hope this has been informative. I hope you've learned something. Hope you've enjoyed yourself. And I will see you in the next one.